Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing today, guys?
Very good. How are you?
Oh, you're doing just fine.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. You know where that's from, right?
Yeah.
Charles Dickens. So
Wow.
I mentioned this because
we're educating the team on Charles Dickens.
exactly. I mentioned this because after this week's games, it was the best of times for some of the teams out there, and it was the worst of times for some of those teams out there. So as we go into discussing the Week 14 games and leading into the Week 15 games, we're going to go ahead and discuss all of those moments by those teams. So the middle segment, we're going to go ahead and talk about where the playoff race is right now, which teams are packing their bags, making plans, teams that are on their final stance, and ones that can kind of rest up some players and kind of throttle back a little bit as they lead into the postseason. So if you guys are ready, we are going to go ahead and kick this thing off. First game on our list this week, the New York Jets were hosting the New England Patriots, and they do what they do. They ended up winning this game 46-17. We are going to start this week's review off with Mitch.
All right. Well, the Jets jetted, knocking out those Minutemen pretty handily out there. Old Mac Jones came back after a few weeks that you might say a little bit subpar. He's come back on Player of the Week again this week with 4 touchdowns, threw up a three-burger there, 300-plus yards. And, you kind of look at the stats, and it's kind of like, well, gosh, the Jets only had 20 first downs, and the Minutemen had 17, but oh my goodness, man, the Jets, when they were moving the ball, they were moving it in chunks. So they didn't even need first downs and third downs and all that. They just moved the ball up and down the field, took advantage of turnovers, and, just exactly what you want to see if you're the coach of the team playing the Jets this week. So congratulations to the Jets.
Okay. Dean, what do you got?
Was that the Jets playing this Patriots team? I mean, they looked like the Patriots of 1985 that got destroyed by the Bears in the Super Bowl. This was a dominating performance, especially on the scoreboard. 46 points at the end of the 400 yards gained by the Jets offense. They played very solid defense. And this was the Jets hosted this game. They were not very welcoming to the visitors. Let's put it that way.
So they were not, they were not good hosts this week. So, not good at all. Next game, we have Jacksonville hosting Minnesota, and they were a good host to Minnesota as the Vikings walked away with a 31-10 victory. Dean.
Yeah, they were a very good host. The Vikings crashed this party, and they dominated, and they had over 300 yards of offense, but they just dominated in the scoreboard, and it's a solid win for them, and it's a very important win. They have the edge in the playoff race, but they need to have minimally a tie or a game ahead of Indianapolis, and they kept pace by winning this game. And Indianapolis needs a little help because of the tiebreaker, needs the Vikings to at least lose one game and win the rest of their games. So this is an important game for Barney's team.
All right, Mitch.
Well, Lamar Jackson, the best free agent pickup in the second half of the season there for Minnesota. Another Player of the Week honor for him. Didn't throw the ball down the field very much. I think his longest pass only 18 yards, but was able to get those 2 touchdowns and really help Minnesota control the game. That's what Barney likes to do. Control the game, suffocate on defense, and that's what they did. And they have set themselves up now I mean, they're not only in the playoff hunt. I mean, let's just say what it is. They're in the hunt for the division title right now. So a couple of more victories, and who knows what might happen.
Yep. Next game, Washington hosting Atlanta. Another, I don't know if you want to call this an upset or just the host city being real nice, but Atlanta was able to walk out there with a 30-21 victory. Mitch.
Well, DiNucci stepped up and had a big game. No doubt about that. 348 and 2 touchdowns out there. There was even a very rare sighting of a running game for Atlanta this week. Snell was able to pick up 81 yards and a touchdown in this game. We talked about Jackson, getting Player of the Week up there for Minnesota. Well, the pickup here for Atlanta is working out for them as they have clawed themselves. Now there is a pulse in Atlanta for playoffs, and DiNucci seems to be the guy. So way to go.
All right, Coach Chambers, what do you got this week with your team?
Well, for most of the game, the team still played some pretty solid defense. We gave up a couple scores to the Redskins in the fourth quarter, but it's hard to keep the home team from scoring in the fourth quarter. We know the home team usually will have a shot at a couple scores, but the good news is that the offense actually produced this week. There was a little bit of running to mix in. DiNucci did well with the passing, and he didn't throw any interceptions. A couple touchdown passes, and just when the game started to get closer in the second half, my offense managed to come up with some scores and hold off the Redskins in their comeback attempt. So I would say it's an upset. I mean, certainly, what was the spread, like 8.5, 9.5 points from Rich's Sportsbook on this game?
I don't remember.
It was 9.5 for the spread.
Yeah, so, I mean, by definition, if you believe that spread, it does make it an upset. So it's, we'll see what happens. 2 more games. Have to play the Giants again this weekend, and then the second game against the Redskins, but that will be at home at least. But on the road against the Giants this week, and those are still games that you have to play well to win. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Next game, we have Las Vegas hosting the Giants, and Vegas walking away with a 17-14 victory. Dean.
Yeah, this one I would say is somewhat of an upset. I think there was a 3.5 or 4.5 point. I mean, I know you all could probably say, well, this should be a pick'em. But my question was, when I watched the game, it was 13-0, I believe, at halftime or shortly before the half, in favor of Las Vegas. The Raiders looked pretty good in the first half, but they came with 13 points. It was a touchdown, 2 field goals, but nonetheless looked pretty good. But my question was, you knew there would be a Giants comeback in the second half. My question was, and that's why I posted in that email, can the Raiders score in the second half? And they proved that they could, and that's how they were able to hold on and win this game. And it's a very important win for them. The Raiders would be in the playoff race right now if they'd won at least a couple of those close games earlier this season. We'd be talking about them being in the race as well. Look for the Raiders to be pretty solid next season.
All right, Mitch.
It was very eerily similar to the Minnesota-Las Vegas game, as Las Vegas got out to that double-digit lead and took that into the fourth quarter. But obviously, as Dean said, gave up that comeback. Well, this time they gave up a comeback, but they did not give up the lead. So nice job there to Coach Santos. And I tell you what, Breece Hall. Man, this guy better get Rookie of the Year, because he has been just lighting up the ground for the Raiders this year. And I think if he's not leading the league in rushing, he's got to be in the top 3 as a rookie. So
and he has let's put
Let's put our votes in for Brees Hall as Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is getting 1,000 yards by the end of the season. Might be the only 1,000-yard running back in the league,
Yeah, yeah, so nice work.
unless someone goes crazy.
right.
Yeah.
Next game we have Chicago hosting Detroit, and an old familiar name, one player of the game, as Chicago won this game 37-17. Mitch.
Yeah, I think Justin is having some fun with us now. He's just rotating his three quarterbacks every week and saying, "All right, I'll beat you with this guy. I'll beat you with that guy. I'll beat you with this guy." So, and obviously, it keeps your quarterbacks fresh and off the injury list. We're able to do that. I think Justin might have. Might be having the flashback of last year when he had, I think, his top three quarterbacks all get injured. But definitely not an issue this year with that. This time it's Justin Fields who came in and slung the ball around the field, and like you said, one player of the game, and the Chicago defense, did what they normally do, just suffocated the Lions, and another big win.
All right, D.
Yeah, I noticed another thing. This is like running back by committee. You had 5 running backs who had positive running yardage. The running game was 132 yards, but Johnson was the most productive with nine rushes for 39 yards, at least as far as yardage. So they spread the ball around pretty well and run the ball pretty effectively, and that's always a good thing for your quarterback in your passing game. And I was thinking that Detroit would be fairly competitive in this game, but they didn't quite measure up.
Yeah, thought we were going to put a little bit more effort out there for that one. Next game we have San Francisco hosting New Orleans in the Battle of the NFC, and San Francisco walked away with a 35-14 victory. Dean.
Yeah, I predicted the upset in this game, and what happened to the Saints? The San Francisco defense was really solid, probably was, and the Saints offense wasn't very productive, 236 yards, and 57 yards rushing. That usually doesn't get the job done. They threw an interception, and the 49ers controlled, had the time of possession over almost 34 minutes. So this was a solid win for the 49ers, and they're, I believe, 9-5 now, and probably most likely getting into the playoffs this year.
All right, Mitch.
Well, I know Burrow got player of the game, but it's really Edmonds and that San Francisco defense. They should be the MVPs of the season for San Francisco. They continue to hold teams, obviously not shutting them out, but holding teams under 17 points a game right now, I think. And if not, I think they're second or third in the league in scoring defense, just behind the Jets and maybe the Chicago, right in the mix with them. And so this week was no different. 4 sacks total, 2 from Edmonds, and the offense was efficient. So another solid 49er victory.
Another interesting little thing, the kickers were combined 0 for 3 in this game, but it didn't matter. The teams scored plenty of touchdowns to make up the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next game we have Anaheim hosting Seattle, and the game went into overtime to come up with the winner in this one, with Anaheim winning this game 33-27. Mitch.
Man, what heartache, The week before, it's like, well, the defense held them to 1 yard per rush, and let's get that offense consistent. This week, let's gain 482 yards and give up 470. But, I know we're talking pre-show a little bit about this, and Yeah, the offense did well for Seattle, except for one thing, and that was similar to my game last week. 3 turnovers, right? So you lost the turnover battle 3-1, and that's if the other team like Anaheim was able to move the ball, that causes you trouble. So I am sure that Seattle will figure out both sides of the ball here, sometime next season.
Yeah. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, as I was watching the game in the third quarter, I thought it looked like Seattle had this game pretty well under control, and the Rams made a pretty solid comeback in the fourth quarter to tie the game. And because when the game goes into overtime, almost anything can happen. And this game, the two teams are pretty evenly matched, other than the turnovers, and it could have gone either way. And the break just didn't go Seattle's way in overtime, unfortunately.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that as well. Turnovers, like Mitch just said, turnovers that will get you every time. I think on one of the interceptions, they ran it back, I think, for 30 some odd yards. I think on one of them, or 29 yards. So that's not gonna cut it. Offense, we were doing it in the air and doing it on the ground, but fourth quarter. That just gets to you, and gave up the points. And once it goes into overtime, it's like I just kind of felt that this is not going to end well going into overtime. So the momentum had swung, and that's pretty much it. So
I think
go ahead.
Has an advantage in the fourth quarter, especially late in the fourth quarter, and probably overtime too.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that adrenaline's there. They came back, got the lead, sent it, or got the tie, sent it to overtime. So it's much better for them. So tough loss. Last two games we have on the list. One of them, I think, we talked pre-show about this one, definitely with some playoff implications on it. And this one is Indy hosting Pittsburgh. And I will say that this was, I'd say it was a very good game, but Pittsburgh just came up a little bit short, losing this one 28-24. Mitch.
Man, I tell you what, that what an exciting game for two of our newer coaches to be battling for a playoff spot, this late in the season, right? And both teams, having a good game, out there, no turnovers in the game. So it wasn't a sloppy game. It wasn't a goofy game. It wasn't, that was a bunch of, both teams were throwing haymakers, and it was just a lot of fun to watch the game. Pittsburgh continues to try to pass the ball more. They still, though, seem to have more success on the ground, running the ball almost 6 yards a carry, but he only ran it 17 times in this game. So, who knows? They might have been able to control the ball a little bit more if they would have kind of stuck to that ground and pound philosophy that they've used. But Jordan Love continues to have a strong second half push. He might be I don't know. Maybe he might get some votes for MVP the way he's played here the second half of the season for Indianapolis, and really helping open up that offense for them. So nice job, Indy. And, Pittsburgh, I think that might have been it for them, but they still have a chance for a rookie coach to have a break-even season, even if they are out of the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. If Pittsburgh had run the ball, they averaged 5.8 yards per rush. If they had run the ball about 30 times, they probably would have had better control of time of possession, probably would have won this game. But they were the visiting team. And, Jordan Love is doing very well for the Colts. And, I suddenly don't remember who that other guy was that was supposedly America's quarterback. And I'm not sure the Colts fans remember who he was either, because they're they're liking what they're getting in the quarterback play of their current quarterback.
All right, last game that we have for this week. Definitely a good game and definitely a heartbreaker at the end. This was Kansas City hosting LA, and LA walked away with an 18-15 victory. Dean.
Yeah, I'm looking at the player of the game here, and of the two quarterbacks, their numbers were similar, but Mayfield actually passed for 110 more yards. But once again, I think the player of the game determination looks a bit more who scored more, and Kaiser passed for 2 touchdown passes. This was a close game, and clearly the difference was the 2 field goals that Kansas City missed, including the very heartbreaking miss at near the close of the game on that field goal that could have tied it and possibly sent it into overtime. I think a lot of times the team that brings the game to a tie seems to win more often in overtime. So, that might have favored Kansas City had this game gone into overtime. And, tough loss for Kansas City and really important win for the Chargers because now they're tied at 9-5 in the division, and they'll play again in Week 16. So,
yeah, Mitch, what do you got with your team?
Well, Charlie had reached out to me before the game, and he asked, for the league, if I could go ahead and drop this game so that we'd have a big matchup in Week 16, for television ratings. And so I was like, well, I don't want to make it look like I'm throwing the game, so let me just tell my kicker to miss some field. I'm kidding. No, very disappointing. Very disappointing game, but you know what? If y'all go back and look at the history of games between Steve and myself ever since I came back in the league, I mean, I think our record's probably we're about 500 against each other. I mean, we have slobber knockers. We have wild shootouts. We have blowouts. I mean, you can think about just about any kind of game scenario you want to think of, and somehow or another, Steve and I we've probably had those against each other. So it's always fun playing against them. Obviously, I was hoping to get that field goal there to tie the game. The first field goal didn't bother me so much. I mean, it was over 50 yards and a pretty heavy wind. But that last one, oh, man, I was like, oh, my goodness, we're driving. We got, within pretty good field goal range. And, it happens, right? So all this means is that we have chaos now in the AFC West. And we'll throw Indy into that mix, too. Obviously, as part of that chaos for the AFC playoff run. And, as I've said before, chaos is always fun when you're talking about PNFL playoffs. So, you know what? We'll lace them up. And, this week, at least I get a bye week. I'm playing the Jets, right? So at least I get to have a week off before I play the Chargers again. So, that makes the team feel better. Just kidding. Just kidding, Thomas. Just kidding.
That's going up in the locker room for the Jets.
Yeah.
Week off. Yeah, the Jets just increased their scoring total by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. All right. So as we wrap up the Week 14 games, we're going to go ahead and pivot into the middle section, and Mitch has already started that off, which is the playoff race.
Talk about.
Yeah, where we're at right now, where the teams are sitting at, who's out of it, who's on life support, and as we talked pre-show, there may be a 7-9 team possibly going into the playoffs on the NFC side. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off, and I think I'll do like the same format we did a while back, a couple shows back. Have Mitch talk about the NFC, have Dean talk about the AFC, and then kind of mash them together. So let's go ahead and let Mitch start off on the NFC side.
Well, I think that Dean was just trying to make you feel good before the show, Mark, when he was saying, a 7-9 team might get in the playoffs, because that would technically, I think, keep you in the playoff race for these last two games. But,
Right.
Dean always, the statesman there. But just joking around. No, the NFC, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, I think Washington, obviously, and Chicago, they are set. And I would say, well, I mean, you can say San Francisco is set now after beating New Orleans. And even if they lost those last two, and New Orleans won their last two, and they were tied, um, they're in. So three of the four spots are filled. Just that fourth slot, though. I mean, technically, I think yes, Seattle. I think you're still in it mathematically out there. I mean, you'd have to have. Um, you'd have to have a lot of losing ahead of you there. But we got the thing that's really going to throw it off is this Atlanta New York game this week, because obviously, barring a tie, which Dean, you and I did, years ago when we were trying to make the playoffs again with each other. So barring a tie, Chicago or Atlanta is going to drop this week. It's so. You got New Orleans playing Chicago and Washington to finish the season, so that's never easy. So really, I think the you have to lean towards that team who wins this Atlanta New York game this week. I think that's where I would maybe lean towards that final playoff spot. And so I know the coaches are. Friendly rivals, but I'm sure that neither one wants to be the reason why the other one gets into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
All right. So, Dean, what do you see on the AFC side?
I'm seeing there's two questions to be decided. I mean, one of them, of course, I think the Chargers and the Chiefs are both in, most likely. I mean, you could mathematically construct a scenario in which one of them might be sitting out, but probably not. They're most likely in, although there's some degree of doubt about that. But we don't know which one is going to win the division, and the two teams will play in Week 16, and that could decide it, as well as what happens this week when I believe the Chargers are playing the Raiders and the Chiefs are playing the Jets. But the other thing that's to be determined, since those two teams plus the Jets are most likely in, is who gets the fourth spot. That's really come down between Indianapolis and Minnesota. Minnesota has the tiebreaker, so Indianapolis needs to win both of their games, and if Minnesota lose one, to not have a tiebreaker. Minnesota needs to either win both their games or at least win one of them if Indianapolis loses a game. Let's look at who they're playing. Minnesota plays Anaheim and Las Vegas. They have a chance of winning both games. Indianapolis plays Seattle and Jacksonville. I think they'll probably be heavily favored to beat Jacksonville. They might be a slight favorite.
Oh, Dean, go ahead and say it. Say it.
Go ahead and say it. They are projected to beat Seattle this week. So we've already looked at it. The Seattle can play spoiler. That's the only thing we can do right now is play spoiler.
But Seattle could definitely play that role. Seattle's won games this year that they weren't favored to win. So
hey, Seattle is capable of winning this game. Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yes. So they could definitely really spoil it, because if Indianapolis loses this weekend, they would need Minnesota to lose both games, and I don't see Minnesota losing to Anaheim. Let's put it that way. The Raiders could pull off an upset. Anaheim, probably not, but it's not impossible. Mm-hmm. We saw it happen this past weekend.
All right.
So there's definitely chaos on both sides. We'll see what happens. Right. What do you think?
Well, for my take on it, I agree with you guys. I'll look at the AFC to begin with, and I agree with you guys. Jets already got it locked up. We already know that. LA's already in there. LA's going to be in the playoffs. KC is going to be in the playoffs. Just a matter of who's going to take the division. Indy and Minnesota. That's a tough one, but I think at this point right now, I'd give a slight edge to Minnesota. They do have a tougher schedule than Indy, but as you said, Seattle there's games that we should have lost. We ended up winning. Could play spoiler this week. But I'm right now, I'm giving a slight edge to Minnesota at this time. From the NFC side, obviously Washington and Chicago, they're a lock. We know that. San Francisco, they're a lock in there. Right now, you have Atlanta, New York, New Orleans, Seattle's on the outside track. I don't know, because New Orleans, they got a tough road these last couple games coming up, and they could very well sit at 7-9. I'll go out on a limb. I could see Atlanta taking that last spot, and the reason why is because New Orleans has 2 hard games coming up, and they have to prep for it. If they don't prep for it, they're going to lose them. I know that they're not favored this week, and next week they have Chicago. I'm almost certain they're not going to be favored next week. Atlanta has the Giants this week, and they have Washington next week. So that could be a very tough one as well. But right now, I could easily see giving that nod to Atlanta for that last spot. So what do you guys think as far as your own divisions? We'll start with Dean. What do you see in your own division?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to my game this weekend. And, both my team and the Giants are 6-8. So, the winner of that game gets an edge. And, again, the Saints had 2 tough games playing Chicago and Washington. So I think that's what it comes down to. That 4th playoff team is probably either going to be 7-9 or 8-8. And it could be either one. And let me look here. The Giants are playing the 49ers that last week. Now, the 49ers don't necessarily need that win to get into the playoffs, but I think they're going to want to win that game and go into the postseason with some momentum. And, of course, the 49ers would rather go into the playoffs 11-5 than 10-6. I think they're still going to show up and play that game. And so, for the Giants to have a chance, or my team, either one really needs to win the game this weekend. And I'd say more likely than not, Minnesota gets the last spot in the AFC.
All right. Mitch, what do you see on the AFC side?
Well, I see something that has not been brought up, and that's the fact that, with Los Angeles and Kansas City at 9-5, yes, we do play each other again, but there is this large green hurdle between me and playing Los Angeles in Week 16, and that is the Jets. And so, worst case scenario, Kansas City goes 9-7, and Minnesota and Indianapolis go 10-6, and I'm sitting at home with Mark coming up with game plans here. So,
I don't see.
So definitely, I think to solidify that playoff position, I definitely need to win minimum one of these next 2 games. for sure. But would love, as Dean said, I prefer 11-5 over 9-7 or 10-6, and so we shall see. We shall see. Now, Los Angeles does play Las Vegas this week, and Las Vegas has played some teams tough. Only thing is that this game is in Los Angeles, I believe, and Los Angeles is 6-0 in the division. Las Vegas is 0-6 in the division this year, so that does not bode well for Raider fans or Chiefs fans this week, and so. We'll see what happens. But I've been telling you all now for 3 years, Barney is back, and all he has to do is, win out his next couple of games, which I'm sure he'll be favored in, and he can definitely solidify his playoff spot. So,
do you think that's just all the more reason that the Raiders have to want to run that divisional record to 1-6?
Well, I hope so. I hope they're highly motivated this week. I hope they are highly motivated.
Yes. All right. So we have come to the end of our middle segment. I think there are some good topics there, some good points that were being made. Definitely a lot to think about and a lot to chew on here. So as we pivot over to our final segment, which is covering the Week 15 games, a lot of important games I see out here on this list, and we'll talk about those as well. So we will start out with the first one on the docket for Week 15. That is Kansas City hosting the New York Jets. They are giving the Jets... wait a minute. Before I even get to that point, let me back up here real quick. Where we are standing right now with our... with the predictions for this season, right now, overall for the season, I am holding on barely with overall of 83-43. Mitch is in second with 81-45, and Dean is in third with the 70-56 overall prediction for lead pipe locks for this season. Mitch and Dean are both tied at 7-7. And I am sitting back there with my team record of 5-9. So we wanted to go ahead and get those in there before we get into our games. So as we let me change back. So again, KC is hosting the Jets. They are giving the Jets 8.5. We're going to start this one out with Dean.
Yeah, this might not be a popular opinion, but I'm going to say that the Jets will, the Jets aren't a mission this season. I think you've been saying that, Mark. They're going to win and cover the spread in this game. The Chiefs are tough, but I think the Jets are tougher. And they're going to vindicate Rich's spread and win this game by 9 to 10 points.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, I have to win, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and go with the Jets. I think that they are going to play. I think Kansas City is going to play much tougher. I don't think that spread's going to hold. I think the spread's going to be a little bit closer. I think that Mitch is definitely going to game plan for this, but I still give the edge over to the Jets. Next game, we have New England hosting Jacksonville. And this is a pretty wide spread. They are giving New England 7.5. Mitch.
Well, I guess I'll go with New England. Yeah. I guess I'll go with New England.
Okay. Nothing else on that one. Just I got to pick one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Dean, what do you got?
Who set the spread? It should be closer to a pick'em. Jacksonville is going to lose the game, but not by 7.5. So New England wins, but they don't cover the spread. That's what I say.
All right. I have to concur with you as well. I'm picking New England, but the spread's going to be much, much closer than that. So Next game, we have LA hosting Las Vegas. They are giving LA 9.5. Dean.
The Raiders are going to continue to improve on offense. Mitch will like this. I'm predicting the upset. Raiders win.
All right, Mitch, what do you got?
I mean, like I already said, Los Angeles 6-0 in division. Las Vegas 0-6. This game is in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is 4-2 at home. There's no way Las Vegas is going to win this game, so I'm going to put my lead pipe lock on the Chargers.
Okay. I am going to go ahead and go with the Chargers as well. And I'm going to hold that spread as well, 9.5 on that spread. Next game we have Anaheim hosting Minnesota. How did I? Anyway, I'm not going to say it. Told myself I wasn't going to do it this week. Anaheim hosting Minnesota. They are giving Minnesota 10.5. Mitch.
Well, Anaheim, just beat the best 5-9 team in the league, so they might be tough, but I think Minnesota is going to win this game, and I think they're going to win pretty handily.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I am on the Barney train this week. I think the Vikings are going to win this game, and they're going to cover the spread. I think they're going to be enthused about their odds of making the playoffs. They're going to really rise to the challenge here. This is going to be a solid win for Minnesota.
All right, and I'll be joining you on the Barney train as well, and I'll be going for Minnesota, picking Minnesota as well. Next game we have, and this is going to be an interesting one, New Orleans versus Washington. They are giving the Redskins 7.5. Dean.
I'm hesitant to say that the Redskins are going to cover the spread, but after losing the last 2 weeks, they're going to come out on fire, and they're going to win this game over the Saints, and they are going to cover that spread.
Okay. Mitch, what do you have on your side?
Yeah, this is an interesting game this week, especially, when you look at the stat lines and you see that, the New Orleans has had a little bit of a tough run here recently, but, they are 5-2 at home. And this is a home game against the Redskins. And so, I'm looking at this. I'm looking, but I'm still going to go with the Redskins.
Okay. And I will go right along with you guys and concur as well. I'm going to go with the Redskins on this one, for this week. Next game we have coming up, New York, another interesting game. New York Giants hosting Atlanta. They are giving Atlanta 3.5. Mitch.
An absolute must-win for both teams. Games being played in New York. New York is only 3-3 at home, but the Falcons are 2-5 on the road. But here's the kicker. I bet no one realized that Atlanta is 4-0 in their division. And so I'm going with Atlanta.
Okay. Dean, what do you got?
Well, we're not used to being favored, but it's a small spread at 3.5. And I think we're going to cover the spread and win this game.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and agree with Mitch's comment that this is, I would say it's more than a must win. I would say this is a playoff game right here for them. Whoever wins this one is still in it. Whoever loses it, you might as well say that they're out of it. I am going to go ahead, even though it is a small spread, I'm going to go with Atlanta, and this game will be my lead pipe lock for the week, that I will be going with the Falcons this week. Next game we have is Pittsburgh hosting Detroit. They are giving they're giving Pittsburgh 6.5. Dean.
Quite simple. I think the Steelers are going to win by at least a touchdown and cover the spread. I just don't see Detroit. You could say one of these weeks Detroit pulls off an upset, but not this week.
All right. Mitch.
Well, did you all know that Detroit is 3-1 versus the AFC this season? I bet y'all didn't know that. And last time I checked, Pittsburgh is an AFC team. But it won't matter. Pittsburgh's going to win this game.
Yeah, I gotta concur. I'm going with Steel Town. I'm picking Pittsburgh as well for this week. Coming down to our final two games, and someone still has a lead pipe lock sitting out there. This is another close, tight game. I think will be interesting. The spread doesn't dictate it, but we'll see what you two have to say. San Francisco hosting Chicago. They are giving San Francisco 10.5. Mitch.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting game. Like I mentioned before, San Francisco scoring defense is one of the absolute best in the league. In fact, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, they're third in the league in scoring defense. Just a few points behind Chicago and New York. So the difference is, though, this game is Chicago does have a little bit more powerful offense. And so they might not score their normal, 30-plus points a game. But I think they're going to hold San Francisco down to, possibly single digits. So I'm going to go with Chicago.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
I neglected to mention that the Redskins are my lead pipe lock this week. This game, I think Chicago wins and covers the spread.
Okay. Correct. Now, direct and to the point. I'm going to go right along with it. Chicago as well for the win and for the spread. Last game that we have of Week 15. It's a must-win for both teams, but more so for one than the other. And I'll see what you guys see on the take on this one. This is Indianapolis hosting Seattle. They are giving Indy 9.5. Dean.
I am going to predict the upset here. I think, we don't know all of the intricacies of the tiebreaker, but I think Seattle is going to be motivated to come back and win this week, and I'm predicting the upset.
All right.
Seattle wins.
Mitch, what do you got?
Well, you look at this and you would go, well, Indianapolis should win this game pretty easily. And then you take a little bit deeper dive into this, right? And you notice, okay, this game is in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is only 4-3 at home this year. 4-3 for a potential playoff team. There's a real lot of confidence for you. However, Seattle 1-6 on the road. So go with the home team. Go with the Colts.
All right. For me, obviously, I'm going to pick my team. We've been known to win games that we were not projected to win, and we've been known to lose games that we were projected to win. So, I think if I'm going to play, if I can't play in the postseason, I want to take as many teams. I want to play spoiler as many teams as possible. So, I am picking the Seahawks. Go Hawks. So, all right, guys. So we have wrapped up Week 15. We just kind of plowed right on through there, and wrapping it up. I definitely see there's some good games out there. As I look at our predictions for this week, I see that we agreed on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games this week that we were all in agreement on, and that's Minnesota, Anaheim, Washington, New Orleans, Atlanta, and the Giants, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Chicago, San Francisco. So we were all in agreement on those. The rest of the games, take that back, 6. We also agreed on Jacksonville and New England. So we all came with the same answers on that. And the other 3 games, we split. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. it's definitely getting tight. And as I mentioned early on, some teams right now, they are in playoff mode. Others are just kind of jockeying for positions. But as we wrap this up, get your guys' final take on this. Dean, what's your final take?
I think we're gonna have interesting games this weekend. We have the two playoff spots up at grabs, one each conference. So it's going to be more interesting games and more chaos, and it will set us up for an exciting finish of the season the following week.
All right, Mitch, final words before we take us home.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Lots of important games this week for playoff implications, whether the teams are actually in the playoff hunt or might be able to influence the playoff race. Lots of big games this week. So only thing left to do now is let's get it.